All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center. Welcome to the Wanda Coleman Theater. My name is Quentin Ring. I am Beyond Baroque's Executive Director, and we are here to celebrate the release of James Zukin's new book, MadCap. Very excited about this. We've got Greg Spero here to perform with him, and we're going to have a really good time, I think, tonight. So thank you all for being here. Before we get started, I did want to say a few words about Beyond Baroque. First, we think it's important to acknowledge presence here on Tongva land. Beyond Baroque acknowledges the wrongs done to indigenous peoples through colonialism and the violent dispossession of their land. Arts organization Beyond Baroque is committed to uplifting indigenous writers, their narratives, and their art. For those of you who don't know much about Beyond Baroque, we are a literary arts center. We are dedicated to nurturing poets, writers, and artists. We do that in a variety of ways. We have a variety of workshops, including our Wednesday night workshop, which has been running continuously since 1969. A very large swath of LA's better known poets and writers have gone through that workshop, cut their teeth in our programs. Everyone ranging from Wanda Coleman, who this theater is named after, to Amanda Gorman, the US presidential inaugural poet. We also have a reading and performance series right here in this theater. We have programs just about every weekend of the year here. Mostly poetry, but also fiction, nonfiction, sometimes a little theater, sometimes some film, sometimes some dance, music. But we primarily support poets. We will be closing our theater for August. We slow down a little bit in August just to prepare for the fall, so we don't have too many programs coming up. I do want to mention that tomorrow night we have the great Larry Beckett here, who was the co-writer of most of Tim Buckley's albums, a great lyricist. So there's going to be some live music. There's going to be some reading from his poetry. Do come back for that if you have a chance. I think it's going to be great. And then we're going to, I think we'll actually be up in City Lights bookstore in San Francisco the weekend following, and that'll be our last program for a while. We do have some workshops coming up, however, in August. We don't have readings, we do have workshops. We have a workshop with Lori Badikian, Holiday Mason. So if you're interested in developing your poetry, those would be great options for you. I should mention as well, this event is free. Beyond Baroque is very much a nonprofit, and so we do depend very much on the support of our members for everything that we do here. Memberships start as little as $60 individual, $80 a dual membership. We have levels considerably above that if anybody is interested in joining. It does help us out tremendously. Donations go to supporting the space, to renovations, to this beautiful building, which I love dearly, but is 116 years old and requires a lot of work. And it supports just the writers and artists and poets. If you're able to become a member, you can see Jenna in the bookstore. You can do so online. We thank those of you who are members and appreciate those of you who sign up tonight. So I think that's about it for the sort of Beyond Baroque intro. I did want to say a few words about the program, and that is that I believe I have known Jim now for 9 years, which is somewhat remarkable to me because it doesn't feel like that long. But Jim first came to Beyond Baroque and told me and told some folks here that he had spent his career as an investment banker and had a dual passion his entire time. In addition to banking, he was a poet and had been writing poetry, and he was really looking to make a life in poetry for many years of just having it be a private practice. And I will say that this is the kind of thing that Beyond Baroque exists to support. We're a space not for an MFA program. You're not, graduating from college and then going on to get your next degree. We're here for the people in the community that are dedicated to their art, to their craft, and that need a space to meet poets and to learn and to develop as artists. And I've always just been so impressed by Jim as a writer, as an artist, to have had that kind of career, which is an immense career that he had as an investment banker, and to be equally passionate about poetry and to be willing to switch in his life to say, this is something I truly, truly care about, and this is something I'm dedicated to. I'm going to start, not new, because he's been writing poetry his whole life, but to start, in some sense, afresh in the public. And so I believe this is Jim's first reading, not only from his new book, but perhaps ever for sort of a fully public audience. And I'm just like so impressed, Jim. I think this is just a really amazing thing to do. I'm impressed by the book and by this whole development that you've had over the past several years as a poet and as an artist. It's also just, it's going to be a great program because not only do we have Jim, but we have Greg here to perform on piano backing him. This is more than just a reading, it's a whole live performance they're put together. So without further ado, I think I will just formally introduce Greg and Jim. First, starting with Greg Spero. He is a Chicago native pianist, composer, and entrepreneur. He now is based in Los Angeles, California. He's performed extensively with Halsey and the Miles Electric Band, among other notable acts, performing at venues such as Madison Square Garden, Forum, and on shows including SNL, Kimmel, Fallon. Spero is the founder of Tiny Room Studios, combination concert venue members club content studio in Inglewood, California. He's also a technology entrepreneur based building the first AI artist manager. James Henry Zukin is a prize-winning poet and a renowned investment banker. In each field, he is an innovator. Zukin brings his unique style to topics largely untouched by poetry. In MadCap, he shares poems that call out disaster capitalism's rapacious effects on countries such as Russia, China, Liberia, Uganda, Iraq, etc. And in Viz, winner of the 2023 Robert Creeley Prize from Marsh Hawk Press, Zukin interviews historical events, intertwines historical events with the economic theories of Adam Smith and others. In 2021, Zukin won the Gemini Magazine Award for the best poem, Gimp Boy and I. Zukin is an advisory board member of Get Lit and is a trustee of the Beyond Baroque Foundation. He's also, I should say, a major supporter of our Amanda Gorman Future Voices Poetry Prize. Mr. Zukin is additionally the founder of Houlihan Lokey, one of the 5 largest global investment banks. Jim is an exceptional poet. He's a good friend. Please, everybody, welcome Jim Zukin and Greg Spero. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Quentin. I'm thrilled to be here, and I want to thank all of you for joining me on this inaugural reading. Now, as Quentin mentioned, my poetry is different. It is different because I have brought into many of my poems my work not just as an investment banker, but the work specifically advising small countries that are insolvent and taking them through the process of trying to get back on their feet. And I have pulled stories from that, put them into poems, and also from viewing the horrors of war that come with it sometimes. Now, on your seats, there are 3 poems, because though the other poems are from MadCap, and I cannot resist by saying you can buy this little book in the gift shop. So all of the poems, except for the 3, and I thought I would make a copy of the 3. I'm going to start with 2 of them, and then the last one of the 3 is the last poem I will read. A special thank you to Greg. Greg is a big deal. On Spotify, he got 1.2 million hits, if you can believe that, for his jazz. And so he's a dear friend of mine and is doing this with me. What an honor. I've asked him to start a little bit. Thank you. It is really Jim Zukin accompanying Greg Spero. Before I begin, I'd like to tell you that currently in my life, I am doing something so exciting, and that is I am a partner at Ethospace Resources that almost unbelievably is a company that is going to be soon, in a few years, building a landing pad on the moon. Either way, I'm serious. So that's what I'm doing and what I'm loving. And now I'm going to begin with my poetry. Gimp Boy and I. My mother pities him, her special child. She calls him her little broken bird. never able to leave the nest. Classmates mimic his shuffle walk. I grow up creeped out by his slight drool, his head misshapen by birthing tongs. Mom loves him unconditionally. Me, she whelps, spanks once, and hands me off to her spinster sister. Here, he's yours now, she says. He will practically raise himself. Every time I hear this family story, it makes me the worst kind of angry. My father, the great good doctor, has a special bedside manner that he never brings home to share with me and our family. He calls my dear aunt Little Miss Biddy, a body never meant to make babies. She had a virgin hysterectomy, so all she has in life is me. Dad died young, but not soon enough. The wounds he inflicted still fester. My anger lingers. It returns full force as I hang on the phone, waiting for the nurse who never picks up. In the background, I hear muffled conversations. His brother's got a day, 2 days max. Papers are shuffled. How is it the virus took half the ward and missed him? I begin to yell, "Put him on the damn phone!" All I hear is static and then click. Rage sticks in my throat, but I call back, just to say goodbye for Mom and I. He's alone and dying, and no one can visit. He doesn't know there's a pandemic, and I am helpless, and I realize I am the worst breed of sorry. What kind of older brother am I, who have been jealous of the life he led? All I can do is cry into the phone, beg the silence for forgiveness. Stillborn reprieve. Evelyn and I met at Faneuil Hall, waiting for Boston's Old Town trolley. We fall into easy conversation, watch fractured faces of Picasso's past lovers plastered on the trolleys, advertising the Gardner Museum exhibit. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Evelyn planned my suicide, timed out, she calls it, to die on time just to please her. Love forever broken in front of a backlit X-ray, showing a pointillism painting inside my lungs. As a phlegm-filled cough explodes, she asks if my death will come soon, promises to move to my side of the bed. I imagine the empty impression I make would soon be filled by her lover. In an unguarded moment, she tells me how much she desires my lush-down pillow. The nurse gives me the good news. It's only pneumonia. I am released from the hospital to find Evelyn is gone. I walk by swan boats in Boston public gardens, once vibrant colors, now absent the palette of promise, the language of romance no longer spoken, lagoon painted with hues of nightfall. It stretches the reflection of my ghostly face across still water to slowly recede into an asterisk. Tiananmen Square, 30 years on. I share my pu'er tea with Sweeper Ho, the best souvenir salesman in all of China. We Chinese are a family that suffered a great tragedy. Our students exit in a warp of crying time. They avoid mirrors to not see for themselves the unspeakable torment that surrounds them. Each morning I stop by his kiosk to share a cup of tea and read the People's Daily. We speak in code with our friend Fu Weiqi, who goes on and on about Tiananmen Square. The blind child is unable to save China. The magic words to free our people are trapped inside the child's mind, with no laboratory to experiment with freedom. I try to quickly finish my tea, but my friend Sweeper Ho joins in. The backward-facing gang of 4 cowards brought mayhem to an impoverished land, carrying a little red book and the thrill of revolution. Fu Weiqi continues in his despondent voice. Stalin's minions take to the floor for the last dance of the perestroika polka. The communist man lives on as a statue, while anarchy, that crazed fat rooster, wreaks havoc in the henhouse. I share a poem written 30 years ago. How plentiful are the red watermelons this year. How carefully the people on the crowded streets eat the sweet fruit, then spit seeds like bullets into the gutter, never to drip juice on the blood of the students. The Viper Club. I preen like an imperial dragon, jaw thrust out to take on all comers, a captain of industry standing on the Shanghai Bund, wearing a Daddy Warbucks cashmere coat. I wait for my new friend, Chairman Jia. We met at a Paris club meeting, eating pâté at a stand-up luncheon, discussing the intrigues of the members who control the funding of poor countries, being force-fed dollars they could never repay. How dare they borrow so much, asked the members, representing vestigial institutions of colonial power. Chairman Jia arrives in a Chinese SUV, dressed in a Mao jacket. He takes me to a 3-story restaurant with a neon facade of flashing snakes. We enter the Viper Lounge, where pools of piranhas and pufferfish greet us. Over dinner, we craft a plan to stretch out the dubious debts of insolvent countries. Jia orders the house specialty of baby vipers in hot oil. Soon, a steaming pot is brought to the table. I look in to see vipers furiously splash and flash, rows of pointed white teeth evoking the Joker's smile. Eat it from the tail end, warns the waiter. I pick up the tongs, ready to bite into a viper. It spins around and sinks razor-sharp teeth deep into my plump, pink cheek. Chairman Jia looks at my bloody face and laughs, takes out a rank hanky and uses it to dab my wound. He recovers his composure, looks me in the eye and says, "We are blood brothers, Chinese style. You bleed, I smile." I have been initiated into the Viper Club. Madame Chow's Revenge. I extend my hand and say, "May 1,000 ventures bloom." Madame Chow is famous for getting foreign devils to eat horrid things. She is gleefully telling the story of her great humiliation of a banker. Donald D. has a Choate Yale pedigree, now 40, and a senior managing director at an eponymous Wall Street bank. "Call me Don," he says while snapping custom-made yellow suspenders. He had insulted Madame Chow, at a signing ceremony a year ago, held to celebrate this deal closing now by saying, "Leave the final terms to me." Madame Chow's father was on the Great March with Mao. She was called the Dragon Lady for good reason. When she turned to Don and said, "The chef has a special delicacy flown in from Mongolia just for you," the table twittered and Don licked his lips. With great fanfare, a retinue in white togas emerged from the kitchen. A large Chinese tureen was presented. The aspic puree with dong is ladled into Don's bowl. He slurps it up, pats his lips, declares it to be the best dish he has ever tasted. He asks if the sausage was bratwurst. Madame Chow smiles and says, "It is poached horse dong." Zahir and Zhao. His Excellency Minister Zahir, exhausted from arduous Baghdad, Paris, Beijing flights. Chinese demand midnight banquet. Cold dishes sit half-eaten in wilted flower beds. Cavalier State Minister Zhao arrives late. Minister Zahir takes a few bites, lists left, falls asleep, sitting upright, propped up. Iraq pauses, talks, a game of slight for slight. Call for early dinner at notorious Scheherazade, a garish Beijing night spot, sporting bevy of belly dancers. Zidane, draped in 7 veils, swoops off the stage, slaps the back of Zhao's head with a mysterious twist. Zahir leans over me to whisper, tit for tat. The talks ground down and halt. China demands promised oil to no avail. Iraq demands debt swap for oil or no deal. Zahir studies mantle adorning breakout room, pulls clock from wall, exposes microphones. I ask my client, Minister Zahir, can I tell Zhao you will supply power to China's wells in Iraq? I'm told, so big is his desk, he can't reach an agreement. In waltzes Zhao without a care in the world, invites Zahir to take a walk around the grounds, standing 6'4" to 4'6". Quite the pair of loafers. Shoes echo hardwood floor groans in response. Beijing Imperial Palace guest house trembles. His Excellency Minister Zahir stands tall. State Minister Zhao stoops down. Walk together, translators dismissed. Share body big desk jokes in broken English. Arm in arm, bonded ministers return to say, millions of oil barrels once delayed will flow across oceans, leaving billions of dollars unpaid. Zahir, triumphant, returns home to acclaim. Zhao's fate decreed, sent alone to the steppes. Liberia's last dollar. We are sitting on stools made of elephant forelegs, sorting through records marbled with green mold in the damp basement of the Liberian Finance Ministry. Some call us stock shredders, grift grinders, reminders of debt stretching time buyers for countries dialing for dollars. Others applaud our taking borrowed money addicts through withdrawal on drip-fed dollars from dealers of last resort who distort loan balances, and humiliate stretched sovereigns who step into the vacuum left by bribe-imbibed former ministers as U.S. forgives loans just as China makes new ones. Looking for old lenders, we place ad and send letters, slip notices under annual meeting hotel room doors. If Liberia owes you money, please join us May 3rd at the IMF in meeting room D. Soon it fills with suits and dashikis, waiting to take Liberia's last dollar. We take the point and briefing books that boldly outline the offer of 3 cents on the dollar and say, take the cash now, holdouts will be last in line, lucky to be paid out in 10 years. When the most distinguished spokesman for France, in a cashmere coat and Hermes scarf, rises up, the room falls silent. In his venomous voice, he asks, "This is a sham offer. Why not just write off the debts?" I say, have you visited Liberia lately? Seen the stunted and wasting children? This is all Liberia can pay. Cannibal President. Uncle John calls with bad news. His Kenya truck company is in crisis. The Uganda factory blown to smithereens in a mysterious group by Scottish mercenaries. The spare parts for Idi Amin's army vaporized in the depot that held them. Amin's threatened invasion of Tanzania, now without spare parts or tires, is stopped dead in its tracks. I am most distressed to hear this. My frame of reference is a personal one. A long-planned summer internship in Kenya with friends has gone up in smoke. Imperious in manner, impervious to advice, Amin shreds Uganda's social fabric. A monster adept at using guile, who hides hunger for violence behind a winning smile. This punch-drunk, most cunning liar, charming face slapper, notorious backslapper, tortures, mutilates, and decimates his people. Feared squads of killers throw cripples to Nile alligators. Thousands of protesting soldiers killed in their barracks. He plots his one-time ally, now rivals, aborted assassination. Brutally attacks Israeli friends who refuse to sell him arms. After his coup, euphoric supporters dance in the street, celebrating the liberation of Uganda from its imperialist past. He proclaims himself the Lord of all beasts of the earth, brags that he is a cannibal. I have eaten human meat, he says on many occasions. It is saltier than leopard meat. Spying for Dad, 1968. I am visiting my family in Athens over the summer. I find 3 passports when searching for cufflinks in my father's study. They have his picture with different names and countries. One is a U.S. diplomatic passport. When I casually drop the passports on his desk, he smiles and says the time has come for me to work with him. He tells me how he turns his Russian ham radio friends into contacts that can be useful for the CIA. Dad's friend Joe Martin calls me to arrange a time to meet. I am getting my first briefing, heady stuff, for a 19-year-old Berkeley undergraduate. As Joe explains my mission, the Everbright Foundation gave the Doha Hospital a small medical center shipped in large containers. When they arrived, the dock workers loaded the cargo into trucks but were not paid the customary gratuity, so the last truck was hijacked. My mission is to make visual contact and pass Joe the gratuity. I spot Joe Martin dressed in an embroidered Ottoman vest, then find my way to the central harem in the Kasbah. When a smoke bomb goes off in a planned diversion, I slip in the wallet and disappear in a myriad of tents. I return to the Hilton to pack my bags and fly home. Dad picks me up at the gate and shakes my hand. It's the only time I can recall him shaking my hand. It felt creepy, and the whole experience left me cold. We return home, and I tell Dad I was done being a spy. Dispatches from Baghdad. Drop and cover bar is always open. Officers down drinks with war widows in burqas of Gelganite gun cotton. Look-killing eyes flash from within. Telegraph, torment, yet to begin. The rest is theater. War dogs called the Green Zone home provide pallets of soiled greenbacks, fund the gravedigger's flea market for corpse bags, secondhand caskets, undersized crutches, and flak jackets. Everything changes. Sand princes wed nitroglycerin brides. Ceremonies end in limb fireworks. Any man a weapon, any woman a prisoner, any child a martyr, every day dream for sale or barter. The unknown soldier. Exhausted, Iraqi soldiers dig in, wonder who they are dying for. Soon return to corrugated tin hovels, fill old closets with single-sleeve, blood-splatter British fatigues. Is the first to die. The art of buying bullets. The Bell helicopter sets down in a gorge behind a sand dune outside Baghdad. I push the Glock toggle off safety, grab my battered backpack, and set out to find the camouflage MRAP. A Heckler & Koch machine gun sits in a bed strewn with a great jumble of ammo belts. Zuhair the gunner spits out a plug of chew, asks, "Pay as we go or flat fee for bullets? Used if under fire on the road." I reach into my Doc Martens combat boot, pull out a sealed pack of 100 hundreds, tell him there's a bonus for not firing a shot. MRAP rumbles forward like an aged rhino with pockmarks covered by shrapnel. We arrive at the Crystal Hotel in darkness. I find working lights and running water, go up to the 8th floor and flick on the lights. Unaware, a terrorist named Abu Nabil sits outside on his haunches smoking nettles. He removes the cover of his rocket cart, sees my light go on, and tightens the launcher, aims the MPAD at my room and fires. A huge roar. Then the room next to me is gone. Its door flies through the wall, across the hall. Sat-nav in hand, I hit the floor. Call my wife at home. Honey, no worries, I'm going to sleep. Ignored the evening news, it's just propaganda. Defiant mood in Kharkiv. Ukrainian artillerists, the great artists of war, set up a battery to defend their church, now standing in ruins. Brass onion domes are shattered by shrapnel, licked by orange flames, their exterior shorn off. Untouched holy tables shine under large color pieces of glass. They slice through penitents caught in the sanctuary as they silently kneel in prayers for peace. Russian ordnance lay in all their lazy menace. Their cylinders, fins, and motors crush the royal doors. Guttural sound of rockets resound with drum beats of machine guns to accompany the bang of artillery. Roadside billboards show a Kremlin clock tower on a black battleship swallowed by a Red Sea. They read, "Welcome to hell. You are on our land now. Soon we will bury you in it." Ghost of war. Her eyes haunt the night. She wears my dog tags. Red slashes mark the fallen, scattered in scorched fields. As corpses they lay on sunflowers and carry on. Children see cuffed hands, parents burned alive. Screaming missiles wipe towns off the map. Sky threatens to fall, every child pushes it up. Somehow. The Russians are coming. October 1962. Our family is gathered around the Magnavox TV to watch Walter Cronkite on the evening news. A grainy picture shows a launch site for Soviet nuclear missiles now in Cuba. Dad jabs at the small screen and yells at Mom, who is sitting next to him. "Mary Jane, this is the big one. The Joint Chiefs of Staff called for DEFCON 3. We need to prepare for war." Soon Mom is helping unload cartons of supplies into our makeshift fallout shelter. Dad takes his Army-issue Colt M1911 out of the safe and puts it into a locked box. His Army buddies help turn our cellar into a fallout shelter. The entrance is hidden behind a bookcase in Dad's study. My brother and I time ourselves jumping out of bed and running into the shelter. I put on my Boy Scout uniform and report to the kitchen for dinner. My Swiss Army knife with its scissors, screwdriver, and saw blade is in a special pocket. Every night we watch the Cuban Missile Crisis on TV. U.S. ships are making a fence of steel around Cuba. Dad is furious with Castro for calling President Kennedy an imperialist warmonger. One night, we sleep in the fallout shelter to test it out. My sister ducks down to walk through the bookcase, sees a toilet seat sitting on top of an ammo box. She turns around and goes back to her room. Mom calls the night a success and joins her. Dad is busy talking to friends on his ham radio. My brother and I take turns peeing into the ammo box. It is the best night of our lives. Thank you. Greg, a little interlude? Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Spero. Isn't he great? Thank you all. Thank you for coming.
And a round of applause for Jim and Greg, please. As Jim mentioned, we do have books for sale at the bookstore. I'm sure Jim would be willing to sign them, so please pick up a copy. We have a reception. And thanks so much for coming.